You know that quiet moment late at night when the house is finally still and you're staring at the ceiling? Your mind starts doing the math on its own. How many more years until you can actually stop? The rent or the mortgage is already eating half your paycheck. Groceries feel like a monthly ambush, and somewhere in the back of your head you hear the same tired question looping. Am I ever going to get ahead, or am I just going to trade my time for money until I'm too old to enjoy it? I've been there. Not in theory, literally. I used to lie awake running those same numbers, convinced that retirement was this distant, almost mythical thing that required a stock portfolio the size of a small country or a dozen rental properties flipping cash like some real estate god. Everyone on YouTube and Instagram seemed to be scaling empires while I was just trying to keep the lights on. The pressure was exhausting. And the worst part, it felt personal. Like I was somehow failing at life because I didn't have the next big hustle lined up. But here's what I wish someone had sat me down and told me years earlier. You don't need an empire. You only need one property, chosen thoughtfully, held patiently to completely change the game. Not get rich quick, not quit your job tomorrow, just one asset that starts working for you instead of the other way around. And once you see how that single decision rewires your relationship with money, time, and even your own sense of security, everything starts to feel lighter. Most of us walk around carrying this unspoken belief that real estate is only for people who already have money, or that you have to become a full-time landlord with a spreadsheet empire just to survive retirement. We scroll past the flashy thumbnails, 10 properties, 20 units, passive income pouring in, and we quietly assume that's the only path. The rest of us? We're stuck grinding 401ks and hoping the market doesn't crash right when we need it most. But that belief is actually keeping us stuck. It turns money into this overwhelming scoreboard instead of a tool for freedom. And it ignores something psychology has known for decades. Our brains are wired to overestimate complexity and underestimate the power of simple compounding systems. We chase the complicated strategy because it feels productive, when the calm, boring path is often the one that actually works. Let me take you back to a conversation I had with a guy named Marcus a few years ago. Marcus was a mid-level manager at a logistics company, steady salary, 2 kids, a wife who also worked full-time. On paper he was doing fine, but every Sunday night he felt that same knot in his stomach I used to feel. He'd run the retirement calculators online, and the numbers always came back the same. Keep working until 68, maybe 70 if the market had a bad decade. The fear wasn't even about being broke. It was about losing choice, missing soccer games because he still had to log in, watching his parents age and realizing he might not have the time or the money to help when they really needed it. Marcus had always rented. He told himself it was simpler, no maintenance, no risk. But deep down he knew the landlord was building wealth off his rent check every month. One evening we were grabbing coffee and he said something that stuck with me. I keep waiting for the perfect time to invest, but the perfect time never comes. I just want to know I'm not going to be a burden on my kids someday. That sentence hit me hard because it wasn't about yachts or Lambos. It was about dignity, about peace of mind. So we started looking at the math, not the hype math, the real-life math that actually shows up in your bank account. And that's when the whole one property idea stopped sounding like a gimmick and started sounding like the most rational move most of us could make. Here's how it actually works in practice, stripped of the guru noise. When you buy a single residential property, could be a small house, a duplex, a condo in a decent neighborhood, you're not just buying a roof and some walls, you're buying leverage. The bank is essentially lending you 70, 80, even 90% of the purchase price. And your tenant or future tenant is helping pay that loan down every single month. Meanwhile, the property itself tends to rise in value over time, not because of some magic formula, but because land is finite and people still need places to live. Inflation quietly works in your favor. The rent you charge usually keeps pace with rising costs, while your mortgage payment stays fixed if you locked in a good rate. Let's make it concrete without turning this into a spreadsheet. Imagine a $320,000 property, nothing fancy. Maybe a 3-bedroom house in a working-class suburb where jobs are stable and families want to stay. You put down 20%, $64,000, which, yeah, is real money, but it's often less than what people spend on cars over a decade. The mortgage is roughly $1,800 a month after taxes and insurance. You rent it for $2,400 after vacancy repairs and a property manager because you don't want to be fixing toilets at midnight. You're still clearing a few $100s a month in cash flow, not life-changing on its own. But that cash flow is real, and it grows as rents rise. Now watch what happens over 15 or 20 years. The tenant has paid down a huge chunk of the principal. The property might be worth $550,000 or more, depending on the area. Your equity has exploded, not because you're a genius, but because time and leverage did the heavy lifting. Refinance once or twice if rates allow. Pull some cash out tax-free to pay off other debt or fund the kids' college, and suddenly that one property is doing multiple jobs at once, generating income, building wealth, and giving you options. And here's the psychological part nobody talks about enough. When you own even one paid-down or cash-flowing property, your brain finally stops treating housing as an expense and starts seeing it as an asset. That shift is enormous. Renters live with this low-grade background anxiety that their biggest monthly bill could go up at any time and there's nothing they can do about it. Owners, even modest ones, sleep differently. They know the worst-case scenario still leaves them with a roof they control. I've seen it play out with real people. There was a woman named Lena, single mom, graphic designer, living in a one-bedroom apartment with her daughter. She was terrified of debt after watching her parents lose their house in the 2008 crash. But she found a modest duplex in a neighborhood near good schools. She lived in one unit, rented the other. The tenant's rent covered 85% of the mortgage. For the first time in her adult life, her housing cost was almost zero. She told me the strangest thing happened. Her stress level dropped so much that she actually started enjoying her work again. She wasn't richer overnight, but she felt safe. And that safety gave her the mental bandwidth to negotiate a raise, pick up a couple freelance clients, and actually save for the first time. That's the part the spreadsheets never capture. Money isn't just numbers. It's the quiet confidence that lets you say no to a soul-crushing job. It's the ability to take a sabbatical when your parent gets sick. It's knowing your kid can go to college without you working weekends until you're 65. The turning point for most people isn't when they suddenly have 10 properties. It's the moment they realize one good decision, held long enough, can outrun decades of frantic saving. It's when they stop comparing their Chapter 1 to someone else's Chapter 20 on Instagram. Because the game isn't about volume, it's about alignment, picking something that fits your life, your risk tolerance, your actual cash flow, and then letting time do what time does best. I remember the exact week it clicked for me. I was sitting in my own modest rental property. Nothing glamorous, just a townhouse I'd bought years earlier when everyone told me I should be maxing out my Roth IRA instead. The mortgage was almost gone. The rent from the finished basement covered the remaining payment and then some. And for the first time I felt this strange, almost foreign emotion, not excitement, not greed, just peace. Like the future had stopped feeling like a threat and started feeling like a conversation I was finally ready to have. That peace is what changes your decision-making. You stop panic buying the latest hot investment because you're scared of missing out. You stop doom-scrolling financial news at 2 a.m. You start making choices from a place of enough instead of a place of never enough. And ironically, that calmer mindset often leads to better financial outcomes anyway. So how does this actually show up in real life for someone listening right now? Let's talk practically, without the hype. First, you get honest about what retirement even means to you. Not the influencer version, your version. Do you want to drop to part-time work at 55? Travel 3 months a year? Move closer to grandkids? The clearer that picture, the easier it is to reverse engineer what one property needs to provide. Then you look for a property that can pay for itself from day one or close to it. Not a money pit, not a vacation home fantasy, something in a location where people want to live for practical reasons. Jobs, schools, highways. Run the numbers like a cautious friend would. Rent should ideally cover the mortgage, taxes, insurance, and a buffer for repairs. If it doesn't, that's okay, as long as you know the plan and the timeline. You finance it conservatively. You resist the urge to stretch for the biggest loan the bank will give you. You keep an emergency fund separate so one broken furnace doesn't derail your whole life. And you treat the property like the long-term partner it is. You maintain it. You don't chase every shiny new strategy that pops up on your feed. Patience becomes your edge. Some people house hack. Live in one unit, rent the others. Some buy a single-family home and rent it out while they stay put in their current place. Some wait until they have a little more cash so they can put more down and sleep better at night. All of those paths are valid. The point isn't perfection, it's direction. And here's the gentle truth. Not every market makes this easy right now. Some cities are brutally expensive. That's real. But even then, one well-chosen property in a more affordable area, maybe an hour outside the big city or in a growing smaller town, can still do the job. The goal isn't to copy someone else's zip code, it's to solve your own equation. I'm not here to tell you this will be effortless. Buying property involves paperwork, emotions, and the very real possibility that something will go wrong at the worst possible time. That's life. But the alternative, renting forever, while your income stops at 65, isn't risk-free either. It just hides the risk in monthly payments that never build equity and in a retirement date that keeps sliding further away. So if you're lying awake tonight doing that same math I used to do, I want you to try something different. Instead of asking, "How do I get rich?" ask, "What would one solid property need to look like to give me breathing room?" Write it down. Not in some fancy journal, just the back of an envelope. Then start looking at listings the way you'd look at a potential teammate instead of a lottery ticket. Because the beautiful part is this: you don't have to become a real estate mogul. You don't have to optimize every last dollar. You just have to make one decision that tilts the odds in your favor, and then protect it like the quiet engine it is. And years from now, when the mortgage is finally gone and that monthly rent check, or the absence of a rent check if you live there, lands softly in your life, you'll feel something you haven't felt in a long time. The deep, steady knowledge that you're going to be okay. Not flashy, not Instagram-worthy, just okay in the best possible way. You're not behind, you're not broken, you're simply one thoughtful move away from a future that feels like yours again. And sometimes, that's the most powerful realization of all. Take care of yourself out there. I'll see you in the next one.